What's up, guys? My name's Andrew Pecoraro with Peck's Metal Picks, and I'm here with
Anthony from After the Burial.
And what are you doing after the burial, Anthony?
I sing.
So, I saw you guys earlier this year. You've had an absolutely massive year. Let's first start off talking about Evergreen, the band's 6th album that came out in April of 2019. You know, when a lot of bands get up to their 6th album, even around the 3rd one, they start to lose their identity. Did you have an idea of what you wanted Evergreen to sound like when you were going into the studio, or did you kind of find out along the way?
No, I think we knew what we were going to do. Like, I think with that whole identity crisis thing, which is very common with a lot of bands, we're victims of it too. I just think what happened with us is it happened earlier, and instead we just kind of corrected it by just, like, once Dig Deep came out, we kind of knew what our sound was supposed to be like. And instead of writing songs for, you know, for people that are, you know, writing a song thinking what would people want to hear, we just started writing songs of what we would want to hear and, like, what the music we like. So that's kind of what happened on Dig Deep. And with Evergreen, we kind of just stayed with the same thing. We're just going to play what we like to play and, like, what we personally think sounds good, and that kind of worked.
So are you saying Dig Deep was where the band kind of had to re-find themselves, or earlier than that on Wolves Within?
Wolves Within was definitely that like kind of turning point, but I feel like that album got overlooked a little bit just because of I mean, to be honest, it didn't sound that great coming out, you know, like the mix, but I think we started to kind of turn a corner right there. But once Dig Deep came out, like once we started writing Dig Deep, I think we were all in the same mindset of just like, let's just play what we like to play. And it worked, and I think we're just going to stay with that. We're not going to, you know, worry too much, and we're just going to write what we like to write, you know?
One of the things you can always count on for After the Burial is that the first single is going to have a really cool, groovy intro. You did it with The Wolf Amongst Ravens, and then Collapse, or Lost in the Static, maybe was the first single. Yeah. And then obviously Behold the Crown. Is that something that you guys do on purpose?
No, it just kind of ends up happening. Like when Lost in the Static came out, when we were recording it, Will Putney was like, hey, this is the single. Because we were with Will Putney, and he's like, hey, this is the single. He's like, I'm telling you. And we were like, okay, you know.
That was actually going to be my question, is like, where in the writing process do these songs come from? Like, do you have a riff in mind and you say, we're going to get this out of the way, or do you have the whole album written and you suddenly realize this is what we want to lead off with?
We have like a vault of like different clips of songs, and Trent will pull from them, or he'll write something new, or he'll take the idea and turning it into a song. So like once we had that, we kind of had the song already done, like musically, but no lyrics yet. And like we kind of started demoing vocals and stuff, and right away when Lost in the Static came out, we just knew that was going to be the single. And then same with Behold the Crown, like it's kind of the same thing. We're like, hey, this is going to be the single. So
it's kind of funny that each album has something like that. Dig Deep also had Collapse, but even looking back further, Rare Form had Cursing at Kenneton, which is one of my, I mean, that's such a deep cut, but one of my all-time favorite songs.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever play that live anymore?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we haven't in a little bit, but yeah, we bring it out all the time. That's one of the ones that usually comes out, that and Berserker.
Nice. The music video for Behold the Crown is so much fun, and I think gives a good look at the band's personality, and I think that's something that a lot of metal bands really struggle with in music videos, is connecting with the fans and letting them see who you guys are. Who came up with the idea to have a snowball fight? With like the medieval armor on and everything?
It was actually my idea. I just I hate doing music videos. I absolutely despise them. I hate the whole, and I'm not trying to make fun of anyone because we're 100% guilty. Like, it's just part of being in the music industry. I hate the whole playing in like a warehouse, or like, you know, like pretending that you're jamming, and I didn't want to do that. And I was like, dude, at first I was like, can we do like an animated video? And they were like, oh, that might cost way too much. So I was like, and I had this idea way back when Wolves Within came out. And
that actually would have fit pretty well too with the white art and stuff. Yeah,
100%. I was like, dude, what if we just did this, like, it looks super serious and, like, you know, intense, but it's just a snowball fight, and it's like over exaggerated everything, and it just worked. It was actually really brutal filming that because it was freezing. It was like negative 20 degrees.
Where did you do it?
Northern Minnesota.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's brutal.
It was brutal, dude.
How did you find the people to come out and participate?
Just put a post up, and there was actually supposed to be a lot more people that showed up, but there was a big cold front that came in, and it was like negative 20, like no joke. Like, in that video, there's a scene where, like, I die and, like, I fall against a tree.
Oh yeah.
And when I fell and slid against that tree, so much snow went down my, like, butt crack. It was, like, brutal. Like, my butt cheeks were frozen. It was brutal.
So one of the things that I've always really liked about After the Burial is your higher pitch screams. That's something that you don't hear very often outside of deathcore, and you really don't hear it very often from progressive metal bands. But one of the things I think that is sort of like a hidden gem in After the Burial's music are your lower screams. I think the best example off of Evergreen was in Quicksand.
Mm-hmm.
I was just listening to Wolves Within on the way over here, and I can't remember what song it was, but it was just like a 2-second part in there too. Is there a reason that you keep them so short and don't, like, really pummel the songs with them?
I never really think about it. It's one of those things where it's like, if it fits the part, I'll do it. It's like with anything that we write, it's like, instead of, like, I don't want to ever force anything, so if it just fits the part, that's where it went. And with Quicksand, I just felt like that's where it needed to go, and I just brought it out. And yeah, like, I do them live, like, they're just snuck in there every once in a while. I always do this because I always, like, when I'm in my head, I'm bombing, like, I'm taking the pitch and just dropping it real low. So it was one of those things that I accidentally figured out I could do, and I've gotten pretty good at it. But I just still, like, I don't want to, like you said, pummel people with it, and, like, to where they're just like, oh, okay, I don't want to hear that anymore.
The reason I ask, I interviewed Reflections a couple years ago, and Jake Wolf, super good vocalist, actually wearing a Reflection shirt right now. He said that he thought that the fans weren't really ready for him to be that heavy. Is that something you think about with After the Burial fans? Maybe they wouldn't be used to hearing something that heavy?
I mean, if that's their fault, you know, it's like, I mean, I don't think about that stuff anymore. If I think it fits the part, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to write the best version of the song that in my mind that I can write. So, and I feel like most of our fans, I feel like we're kind of on the same page. Like, I think like, if there are fans, they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah,
and
you guys have been around long enough.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed, your last 3 albums have all had 9 songs, and then I think, maybe not Rare Form, but the one before it also had 9. Is that something you guys shoot for purposely too, or does it just work out that way?
It totally just works out that way.
Do you, like, cut anything that you could add on and end up with 11?
Okay, so on Dig Deep, there could have been 10 songs, but we couldn't finish the song in time, and that song ended up being the single for Evergreen, which was Behold the Crown.
Oh, okay, so that was almost on Dig Deep.
That was almost on Dig Deep. We had, like, a big chunk of that song written, and just due to certain circumstances with the writing process, we had to cut it. So we almost had 10 songs.
All right.
It almost happened.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, yeah.
So I saw you guys earlier this year. This kind of ties into the theme of how busy you've been this entire year. You played with Parkway Drive and Killswitch Engage. You have done some tours since then I'll touch on. But what was that show like? Because those are 2 of the biggest metalcore staples, especially after Evergreen came out. Were fans pretty receptive to it?
Yeah,
that's overall pretty good too.
Yeah, like, we that's what's kind of was like that sign that, like, hey, is this song working, or is this music working? And we started playing, and, like, we would play Behold the Crown, and, like, the amount of people, like, jumping to that part, it was just, like, insanity. So it's one of those songs where, like, I think people, when they first, for some people might have, when they first heard it, were like, oh, this is too much. And then after a while, they're like, actually, that's kind of cool. It's kind of, why is it stuck in my ear? You know, like, oh, maybe I actually like that song. And then there were some people that just liked it right away. And there were some people that still to this day hate it, which is, hey, it's totally cool, but it works live. So
when I saw you, not to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
When I saw you, I want to say you had like a back injury or something. You could barely move, but you still sounded insanely good. What happened with that, and how was it having to play shows just literally standing there like you could not move, it seemed like?
It sucked. So we had, on that tour, we had an off show, and I was just like doing my normal thing on stage, and I felt like something pop in my back, like on stage, but it was like slight. And I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good. And then I would try to headbang, and I was like, oh, I can't really headbang anymore. And I was just like, oh, dude, I hurt my back. Like in my head, I'm like playing the set. And I think I even mentioned something that like I just pulled a muscle or something. And then like I think it was 2 days later or the next day, I was moving a suitcase in the luggage bay. And it wasn't even a heavy suitcase. It was just a weird position. And I felt something pop in my back. And it was like, felt like a really old man. I was like, and I yelled for Dan because he was like right by the door, and he had to help me get back in the bandwagon. And I literally laid on the ground right here, and I could not move. And I like, Dan was like, I think I'm sick to my stomach, because he was worried that I was gonna have to go home. And because I was hurt bad, like, and I'm still dealing with it to this day, but it's not as bad anymore. It just kind of tightens up.
Is there like any indication of what it was?
Yeah, so I herniated a disc, and then on top of that, my I guess from over time of whatever I'm doing wrong on stage or just being in weird positions, my right hip is back like this. So like, I don't know, it's like that. So
okay.
I just have, it's just messed up. So I'm getting old, man.
In March 2020, talking about future plans now, you'll be touring Europe, headlining after the Burial tour, and Make Them Suffer is the main support, right?
Right.
How did you guys decide to have them? Because I know you were their support in the Australia tour, right? So is that like some sort of a just deal at the time, or you just had a ton of fun with them in Australia?
No, it just kind of happened. So like we had only been to Australia once before that, so our presence there isn't like it is here, you know. So it's like there's bands that do way better in Europe than they do in the States, and there's bands that do better in Australia than they do in Europe, and it's vice versa. So like, you know, like for instance, we might headline here over a band here, like, and it'd be a big difference. But if we go to Europe, we would be under them because they're bigger in Europe for some, you know, that's how it happens. How would you rank After the Burial's audience globally? I have no clue.
Like, in terms of like America over Europe?
Oh, America's number one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're way bigger here than we are anywhere in the world, as far as I know.
Well, it's awesome you'll get to headline in Europe, because I'm sure you'll get a bunch of new fans from that.
Yeah, that'll be cool, and like we love those guys and Make Them Suffer. Like they're our good friends. Like we had when we did our headliner. Did they open that tour? I can't remember, but we became friends with them on the the Rare Form 10-year tour.
Oh, okay.
And we clicked, and like we're good friends with those guys, so it was easy. Like when they were putting the tour together, our booking agent over there was like, hey, we think they would be great for direct support, and we were like, well, yeah, of course, it's our friends, so let's do it.
So this is kind of starting to get into, I have 2 or 3 questions that are just random ones I've always wanted to know about. A Wolf Amongst Ravens, it might not be true anymore, but for a long time was the band's most popular song, which I always thought was so interesting because it's the least like all of your other songs. You know, it's kind of like off on its own island.
Yeah.
Was it tempting at all to look at how well received it was and that the fans loved it so much and say, maybe we should model our future sound off of this song?
Maybe. I think when Wolves Within came out, like there was a lot of that, like, you know, you can kind of hear, like, especially when you go to, like, even though it's like a big difference, but like if you listen to like A Wolf Amongst Ravens and then Pennyweight, like you were kind of like seeing this experimentation that was kind of going on with our band, And I feel like that whole album was so weird how it came about, like, because that song was recorded way before the album actually came out, and it just kind of popped up on that album. But I just think that song is exactly what it's supposed to be, one of those like separate weird songs that we did, and it worked, and we still play it live today. So
yeah, it would always surprise me, because like you go from like Rare Form, and then to go to that was just such a big step, and it was so surprising because I felt like most people at the time probably knew After the Burial from that song. I just wonder how surprised they were to then go and listen to everything else.
Well, it was weird because, you know, like because it was so out there, people were talking about it. And I remember there was do you remember that Djent stick guy?
Yeah. I didn't want to bring it up.
That's okay.
But
that was like the funniest thing ever. And like, you know, people were
some people, this was so long ago, they probably have no idea. Do you want to explain what?
Just Google Djent stick and you'll see. It's like a broom with like a bass string on it.
That was pretty much the epitome of Djent at the time, which was like fully a Wolf Amongst Ravens and like a ton of other bands at the time. That brings back some memories. So this is my last one. Off Dig Deep in Laurentian Ghosts, who decided to put the air horn in it, and did anybody wonder or think, what if the fans hate this? Like, I think it caught people by surprise, and it's grown on people. Yeah. But at the time, I was like, what is that?
It was 100% Trent's idea. And we didn't care what people thought. Like, we thought it was so funny and, like, so great. Like, that's where... And it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like, we stopped worrying about what people were gonna like. Like, if we were so... Like, if you worry about what everyone's gonna think about your art or your writing, then you're not gonna be true to yourself and, like, true to your music. So it's like, the most genuine way we can come across to our fans is just by being ourselves. So that's what we did. We joke around all the time. We have a lot of fun. I mean, look at our snowball fight video, and like, the best time I ever have on stage is when I don't give a shit and I can just be on stage and like be silly, like, because that's who we are. Yeah, we're in this super heavy metal band, but like, we're normal dudes, you know. So I think that's just kind of what happened with that song. It was fun. So this will actually be the last ones, because I'm thinking about like Periphery. Their new album had a couple Easter eggs in it, and some of them kind of pissed fans off. Infant Annihilator just put out their album earlier this year, and they have some really funny things going on. Does Evergreen have anything like that, or do you think you'll incorporate something like that again in the future? Oh man, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like, who knows, you know, like, you never know. Like,
just if it comes up, it'll come up.
I mean, there was funny stuff like in production. Like, there was a part where, like, in Quicksand, where like Trent was helping me with like a pattern, and like I think the lyrics like "release my body into the expanse" or something like that, or I forget what it is, but he like sang it like it was the vocal pattern, like that was supposed to be screamed, but he sang it like it's not going to do it justice, but he's like saying it super silly, and like that's how we figured out the pattern. And like the same with like on Dig Deep, like in production, like, you know, on Heavy Lies the Ground, that whole beginning, like, bound with iron chains, solitary feet, like that whole part was like the silliest lyrics ever to start with. Like, there was like all up in the club, shorty, like, what's under that chub, and it was like we're talking about, like, we're just making fun of fat people, you know, like ourselves basically. And like, so like it just ended up, there's always that, and like we never like limit ourselves. Like, if we want to do something fun, we're gonna do it, you know.
Well, that's awesome, and it makes me obviously pretty excited for all the future stuff that you guys make, because it really seems like you have found your identity. Not gonna have to worry about, I don't know, so many bands go soft these days. I'm just gonna ignore that, but
I think we're gonna do the opposite of that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like what did Pantera do? Like, they just kept playing heavy music, and it worked.
Yeah.
So,
well, stoked to hear that. Anthony, that's all the questions I have for you. Do you have anything you want to say to the fans out there watching?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support all over the years, and we look forward to seeing you guys at the next one.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Make sure you check out their new album, Evergreen, also, and keep an eye out for the European tour. Is there anything else other than that?
We're working on some stuff. Maybe a headliner. We'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.